Hi Mackenzie. I just wanted to make you a video that it's gonna probably last a few minutes because I do have two things I want to touch on. But the first thing is something about there's like some I've noticed like on the internet um there's things going on and like obviously like the world around us there's something going on about people are saying that the word of God is like I don't know is not real or something like the Bible is not really it's been changed or whatever. Now there are Bibles out there that have been like if you really do just you don't even have to really dig deep to find this stuff. Some of these Bibles have left out full verses and in some cases they twist it ever so subtly. I've already talked to you about this stuff. And then in some cases they'll have the verse, but it'll be like half the verse and the other half will be missing in some of these Bibles, like the newer ones. Um, but for somebody to say that, like use the King James version because then you're safe. That is the word of God. Um, but for somebody but for somebody to sit there and say that the word like there's people out here that say none of these Bibles are you know and I prayed about it and I said, God, you know because I could definitely see the logic in that. And I said, you know what, how am I supposed to know that somebody didn't really like change the word of God? Like this is 2016. The Bible is written all like how am I supposed to know that throughout time somebody didn't, change? Like, cause there are people out here that really want to, damn, like, there are people out here that really want to, people out here that know better. Like we live in a world full of people that don't even acknowledge God, but there's people out here that know better, that know God exists, and they really, really, really honestly know that there's no way to get to God except through Jesus. That's why there's all this confusion about Jesus and all these little Jesuses in religions and Jesus that there's Jesuses everywhere. If you do research, you'll see that there's Jesus in Islam. Jesus in Islam is nothing but a teacher and a prophet, nothing more. There's the Jesus in Catholicism and Mormonism and Hinduism and Buddha. Like there's all kinds of Jesuses. There's that's confusion. You know the way to get to the real true God is through the real Jesus, the Jesus that died on the cross. I'm not trying to beat anything into your head. I'm just saying that, people, I mean, why are people twisting verses and taking out verses and trying to, like, like, why are people doing that to Bibles? Why are people trying to confuse people when it comes to Jesus? There's something to this, come on now. Um, I don't see people doing that to I don't see people doing that to Mormonism or Catholicism or because that's religion, you know. Um, that's what that stuff is, and so I don't want to get too deep into this. I'm just saying that I prayed to God about it, and I said, you know what, how am I supposed to know that this is like what these people saying? I mean, I thought about it. I'm like, well, you know what? I mean, how am I supposed to know that somewhere like after all these years, I know the world I live in, and I know this is a very antichrist world. Really, it is. Um, you know, so I mean, when God came down here, they killed him. They killed him. So what does that tell you? The world, we don't live in a very, when it comes to God, people, I mean, people don't really want to talk about, people will sit there and like if you mention the word God, God can mean anything. God can mean a number of things. Anything can be a God. I mean, people don't want to hear the word God alone, but the word God is more acceptable. But as soon as you mention Jesus, that's when people run away and they get all squirmish and they get weird and people don't want to hear. There's power in that name, you know. Um, there is. I'm just being honest. I'm not trying to be corny. I'm just telling you the truth. But I prayed and I said, you know what? How am I supposed to know that? I don't think that. I said to God, I said, there's Bibles out here that obviously have been kind of there's obviously kind of some, some funny stuff going on with a lot of these newer versions. But is there a version out there that I could really count on to tell me the truth? Because I'm the kind of person, I don't know you, but I know a lot of people out here, they're comfortable, just settling, hoping that for whatever. I'm the type of person where I seek the truth. I want the truth. The truth can be very uncomfortable, and sometimes you have to go through a lot of garbage just to get to the truth. But I want the truth. And I called on God, and I said, because God knows my heart, and He answered me pretty fairly quickly. Um, the Bible is the Word of God. Use the King James version. Like I said, if you want to use the newer versions, I'm not saying that it's. All I'm saying is line it up don't just sit there and depend on a certain version. But there's things, and look, this conversation, you might not even care. So like I said, I'm just dropping this video just in case you do. Or maybe you don't care now, but maybe somewhere down the line you will care and you'll remember me saying this to you. So I don't know, whatever. But nonetheless, I prayed about it, and He got back to me like fairly quickly, because I just wanted the truth. I'm not comfortable just hoping that, I want the truth. You know, so I'm not looking to feel comfortable, and you know, I'm not looking to feel comfortable. I mean, if I want to feel comfortable, I could be comfortable, but I want the truth. So that makes me comfortable when I know what's up. So, I came to Him, and that's pretty much, So use the King James version. There's also a King James 1611, and the King James version could be kind of difficult to understand. I mean, you could look up words. Hang on for a second. It's called it's called a concordance, Strong's, CONCORDANCE, Strong's, and it's called the James Strong. It's a King James version. It has like every word in the Bible. It has it has it in Hebrew and Greek, and you just kind of like match it up, and it'll tell you exactly what the word means in the Hebrew and the Greek. Because like that's the thing. Like somebody might say, well, why can't I just Google the name of or the meaning of the word? You can a lot of times, but sometimes there's a deeper meaning to a word. That's why when sometimes people look at the Bible and they look at certain words, the Bible can easily be misinterpreted, because certain words, like I said this in a number of my videos. I think I mentioned it to you in one of the videos I did with you. Like it depends on the time. It depends on the time. Like certain words for my generation, and I'm sitting here talking to you like I'm 100 years older than you, but really, I mean, things change. When I was your age, certain words, we use certain words. Like the words that you guys use nowadays, back when I was your age, they meant something totally different. They were still around, but they meant something totally different. And like it just depends on the time period, and it depends on the culture, it depends on the person speaking, it depends on the topic. Like a word in the Bible doesn't necessarily mean that it is what it is. Sometimes you really have to look and study. That's why you're supposed to study. And studying, I have to do a better job of studying, and tell you the truth. I'm just saying, like when you do it, you have to, like really break it down. And it's not hard. It really isn't. I mean, there's no real clear-cut way to study, but, just, and you could do all this on your phone. You don't need to sit there and just buy all kinds of books and just like, spend, it's not hard to study. Just, I mean, we live in the day, we have internet phones. This is the information age. Just, like I said, if you want to know the meaning to a word in the King James version, get one of those Strong books. I got that off eBay for, I don't even know. I mean, there's different get get a good one. Don't get a cheap one where it's just if you're gonna do it, I mean, get a good one. But you could just Google the time period and where the location is, because like Jesus and his followers, like they went around to different places, and you know it just depends on, like I said, the time period, the location. Different words can mean different things to people. Like kind of like you have Mexicans and you have Puerto Ricans. A lot of people think that they're the same. No, they're not. Likewise, you have Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, and Spanish people. No, they're not the same. Like and I know this because I've had Mexican friends, Puerto Rican friends. Like I went to school with these people. Like I know what I'm talking. I haven't had a whole bunch of Puerto Rican friends and Mexican friends, but I've had enough to know, and I've heard conversations along the way, and you know, so when it comes to I'm just using this as an example. Mexicans have like let's say there's a word, and the word obviously exists on this planet, but Mexicans use a certain word different than Puerto Ricans, and like a Puerto Rican will say it and it'll mean something completely different to them because of their culture, because of their background, and you know but a Mexican like in if a Mexican uses that word, a specific word that it's not going to mean the same thing to them because of their background. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Just it's kind of a horrible example, but it's all I got. You know, it means different. It depends on the background. It's a word that can have meanings, but you know what is your background, what is your culture, what's the time period. That's why you have to break this stuff down. So when people look at the Bible and they look at certain words with the naked eye and the carnal mindset, and they're not even trying to study it or break it down, that's why I say, I mean, people can really personalize these verses and just look at a verse and be like, oh well, that God is saying this. You spent 2 minutes looking at the verse. Like a lot of times you have to break these things down because so you can't just read the Bible like a book and just think that it is what it is. You know so I'm just telling you this stuff just in case you care. You probably don't, but whatever. I'm just saying it to say it because I noticed that there's things out there that so I just wanted to let you know that I did pray about it, and some of these Bibles are corrupt. They are like the newer versions. So but use the King James. Yeah, I mean, like when I try to explain stuff, I just kind of get tongue twisted, and I know what I want to say, but it's just definitely not my strong point to try to explain stuff. I'm such a horrible teacher. I try though, I really do try. But yeah. So I did want to say that. I mean, there's some just in case you ever come across. I mean, I don't know. You probably don't even get any of this stuff on your Instagram. I don't know. Who knows? But just in case you cared, I mean, it's out there, and I don't want you to ever be convinced. There's a lot of stuff going on out there nowadays. I don't ever want you to be convinced and thinking that, well, the Bible is not the word of God, and how do you know? Well, because I prayed about it. I got an answer, and used the King James version. I mean, if you want to use the newer versions because it's easier for you, fine. But like I said, I mean, the only way to God is through God. And what I mean by that is when God came down here in the flesh and died. Like a lot of people think that God is like there's 3 different gods, like the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. I've already explained this to you. But basically all Jesus is God taking a piece of him. So God is spirit. God took a piece of himself and put it on this planet, so to speak, in a nutshell. And yeah, he was born of a virgin, and I'm gonna tell you that because it's true. And that's even in, I think it's like the 2nd chapter of Matthew. And the reason that is because, and a lot of people say, well, how could that be? Because he's God and he could do whatever he wants to. That's do you think God is limited? Like people believe in a God that is limited. Like God can't do things. but God had to be born of a virgin because, I've already explained this, I think, in one of my other videos. I don't think to you. Maybe I did. I don't know.